Angry Andy Reviews.
Angry Andy.
Angry Andy Reviews. Angry Andy Reviews. Angry Andy Reviews. Angry Andy Reviews.
Don't make me destroy you.
Well, hello and welcome to Sharing the Silver Screen. It is I, Angry Andy, and I'm here once again with our good friend, Mr. Spider-Dan of Spider-Dan and the Secret Boars, in this shared endeavour, this sharing of the silver screen, where we pick a movie every month or so from our own catalogue of joy to share with the other person that movie that they haven't seen. That's the thing. We have a look at movies from each other's lists and go, this motherfucker hasn't seen this. Let's make him watch it. But for this one, I decided to bend the rules ever so slightly and decided to share my rather old love of Jim Carrey movies from the 90s, the old comedy stylings of Jim Carrey, to pick a film that I hadn't actually seen myself. So we're playing a little bit with the format for this one. It is literally sharing my love of classic Jim Carrey with Mr. Spider-Dan. And for this one, I picked Man on the Moon, beg your pardon, rather. And it's a biographical movie on the late Andy Kaufman, the self-styled comedian who created some bizarre stunts and some bizarre set pieces and really played with audiences across the world, across all spectrums, to the point where people weren't sure whether he was real or fiction or true or whatever. They just had no idea what he would come up with next. I'm not even sure whether he knew what he would come up with next, but it's fundamentally a biopic. And as Mr. Spider-Dan has said just before the start of recording, not a fan of biopics. To be honest with you, neither am I really. I do struggle with them. I've watched a lot of biopics, but I only tend to really watch them once, unless they are something that's really, really, deep and impactful and has something, otherworldly going with it. And I'm thinking like Schindler's List, for example. It's not really a biopic, but it's the same kind of, that kind of, it's following one man, following a journey, following, a change in perception and all that kind of stuff. But this one, a little bit more difficult. And I'll be quite honest with you as well, I struggled with this film. Dan, what did you think of this film?
So, speaking of Jim Carrey, I was a big fan of Jim Carrey for many years. I think The Mask especially was a big one for me, that kind of cartoony style humor.
Yeah.
And again, it's very fitting in that kind of Looney Tunes yet violent world. That was a big one for me. Again, you mentioned The True Story, another biopic, Ace Ventura.
I used to think... God damn it, Dan, confusing my child brain.
To be fair, Andy, I used to think Wakanda was a real place, Genosha was a real place,
Yeah.
all these fictional countries. I was like, I've never been there, but it could be real. Yeah, why not?
It's a
Why
problem when you have real people pop up playing themselves.
Oh, I'm going to fucking get to that. I'm going to get to that fucking stuff.
Yeah. Oh God, it has it in spades in this film.
Yeah, fucking hell. And that's part of my issue with it, I think. So
Yeah.
I struggled with it as well.
Think,
Andy.
when we get to it, I get it, I understand why, but then at the same time, I was like, you fucking truly blurring the lines here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I think that I'm going to get to a theory of mine as well later as well. So yeah, I really struggle with this. I'm not a big fan of biopics. Jim Carrey went full into kind of method acting mode, and I think this is the point where you have the old Jim Carrey, the kind of the movie star, the box office kind of 1994 Dumb and Dumber, Mask, Ace Ventura Jim Carrey, and he goes on a kind of a journey, a psychological, mental journey to kind of find out who he is and what the world is, what it means to him, what is fame, what is success. And he's gone through the emotional ringer. He's had quite a lot of kind of personal issues as well. Like, he's gone through a fair bit of tragedy, and I am a fan of him. I do like him a lot, and I respect him in a lot of ways. But there's a documentary that goes along with this film, and I saw this years ago, and it kind of put me off seeing the film, but I did put it on the list because I thought, well, people talk about it a lot. There must be something to it. So I put it on the list for you to pick, and yeah, the documentary does not make him look good in any light. The footage was hidden away for 20 years because they were afraid it was going to make Jim Carrey look like an arsehole. And guess what? They were right. It makes him look like a complete arsehole. And we'll get into it, I'm sure. But I watched this back to back with that because I felt like I needed the additional context to maybe, find out why it was such a troubled production and why we got what we got in the final film, and what changes were made. Apparently, there was a lot of like the opening of the film goes, by the way, this isn't an accurate representation of Andy's life. Things have been mixed around and shuffled to make it more dramatic and more kind of thematically, entertaining, they say. Which maybe they should have shuffled it around a bit more because it wasn't that entertaining, frankly. But yeah, I was. Long story short, I was not a fan of this film.
Yeah, and to be fair, again, I said it just before we pressed the record button. There was a point when I was about halfway through this film, and I went, "There's a reason why I never watched this all those years ago when he was at the height of his power, height of his career. When I was watching all of his movies all the time, back to back, and I'm included in there like the Truman Show and The Mask and all of that. There's a reason why I never picked this film up, and watching it now, I can see that reason because for me, you have to be in a position, and I think I said this to you in a private message the other day. I think you have to be in a position where you are both simultaneously fully invested in Jim Carrey and have to be simultaneously fully invested in Andy Kaufman as well as a performer. So you're not just there for Jim Carrey's performance, which you would be if you're just watching The Mask or Ace Ventura or The Truman Show. You have to be there for Andy Kaufman as well, and you have to be fully invested in his style of comedy, because Jim Carrey is playing it that accurately, that on point. I mean, it says it in the documentary. You got Danny DeVito there, in the opening sort of 15-20 minutes of the documentary, going, "Oh my god, it's uncanny. It's like it's him. It's him. He's doing it. It's him." And that's the thing. Yeah, it's not Jim Carrey playing The Mask. It's Jim Carrey as Andy Kaufman playing Andy Kaufman. So there's almost two actors there playing the exact same thing. It's really difficult. I found it difficult to break through, and I think that might be a problem in terms of the method acting, because he is so method and he is so being Andy Kaufman. He's not Jim Carrey. He's Andy Kaufman, and I couldn't break through it and it sort of unpack the Jim Carrey performance in it. If that makes sense. It's really hard to describe for myself. I was trying to find those little flecks of Jim Carrey, and all I was seeing was Andy Kaufman. And I'm not. I've watched a good deal of Andy Kaufman recently to try and sort of, big myself up in it. And they go through a lot of like the key comedy moments or the key questionable moments, in his career. So I tried watching some of those. I watched the SNL skit, which is fucking bizarrely on point, but it didn't make me laugh. And it's strange because I don't know how really to describe it. It didn't make me laugh, and yet because it's exactly the same in the film, I'm not going to laugh then either. if that makes sense. I don't know. It's not my kind of comedy, which is strange.
And that's fine, Andy. Yeah, and that's fine. Like, you're allowed to not get certain comedy, and I to a degree I do understand Andy Kaufman to a degree. Like, we've done plays, and I've been, sometimes I'm difficult to work with, sometimes you've been difficult to work with,
Well, you're horrible to work with. I mean, disaster.
And and I
can't stand you.
fire him, just fire him, get him off out of this play. What is he bringing to this? Exactly. But like I've been in scenarios where I've I'm telling a joke and I'm becoming a character, but I don't preface it like I've become a character. I'm now doing a character. This can be in social scenarios, this can be in plays, this can be in various things. And, I'll be like, I'm the racist bigot, and I'm going to play the racist bigot, and this is what the racist bigot would say.
You mean that's not a character?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. But
God.
but then, like, I've spent a lot of my life being misunderstood, and
we all?
And that's fine, and I have to explain. The other day, I was talking about the podcast I've just done with Scott. And and it's about Conan the Barbarian, and the writing in that from Robert E. Howard is very racist. And in the middle of the kind of canteen, I just said I did a racist podcast the other day. Didn't elaborate on how it worked or what. But they were like, "Excuse me," and I was like, "Oh no, wait. There's moments like that, or the I'm gonna be the sexist, but you kind of have to. You've got a responsibility to make your audience aware of what you're doing in the bit. And I think the thing with Andy Kaufman is the joke is them not knowing if it's a joke and not knowing if it's a bit. And I think you put it quite well, Andy. I think it's a blurred lines thing. He's blurring the lines so much because that's funny to him and Bob Zamuda. That's the humor they enjoy. And even Shapiro says you're making each other laugh, but you're not doing anything for the audience. And it gets to a point in the film and in Andy's life where he's blurred the lines so much that people expect him to do this or to be this or to say this, and he goes along. He does I actually think the wrestling is probably the best joke he ever did. Actually, I think that works because in that world it is kayfabe, isn't it? They do have to. Even though it's pretend, they have to keep up the realness and keep up the pretense. So that's why I think
it is genius that Jerry Lawler was in on the act as well. I mean, that it's incredible. But again, that's because wrestlers are great improvisers, as our good friend Nathan Richard Smith says. The greatest improvisers because they create scenarios and live them day in, day out, and then they're able to drop them or adapt them at the flick of a switch.
And they have to do it in public as well. They go on a plane. They have to live up to those characters and those expectations constantly. It's their life, and a lot of the times they become those personas in some way. So it is for them almost. It is kind of method acting to a degree.
Yeah.
And I think that's the issue with this is that he's blurred the lines. He talks in the documentary. It's called Jim and Andy: The Great Beyond. It's on Netflix, readily available. Go check it out. If you like Jim Carrey, probably don't check it out, but it is interesting to see the kind of evolution of him and where he is now and who he is now and the kind of roles he took on, like, Eternal Sunshine and, things like The Majestic and other kind of Number 2023, when his career went kind of very kind of off kilter. He stopped doing the kind of broad comedy stuff and started doing like kind of serious, depressing dramas with flecks of humor. Obviously, there's tragedy and comedy and vice versa. And I think that's it. And he talks in the documentary, he's like, Andy came to me, and then I was just Andy. And you were saying about you were looking for the Jim Carrey-isms. I think you find the Jim Carrey-isms in Tony Clifton when he's playing that character.
Yeah.
Because on if you look at Andy Kaufman,
Tony Clifton's a fabrication in of itself. It's not. Yeah, I mean, again, like Tony Clifton is a character, is a persona that Andy Kaufman created to subvert everybody in fucking Taxi, the TV series, everything. It was mind-bending genius that I don't understand. Excuse me. Yeah. I just don't understand it. But like you say, like that's the kind of character that Jim Carrey for me, does play Tony
Mm.
Clifton.
Mm.
And that's probably like, yeah, you're right. That's probably the only part of the film where it is Jim Carrey playing a character.
He's like jutting out his chin and like,
Yeah.
I'm Tony Clifton.
Sounds like the Grinch as well. It sounds like the Grinch.
Oh yeah. I mean, the physicality is a bit like the Grinch because he's got that big belly and he's sticking his chin out like, you know, and the and I actually those are the times where I actually chuckled because he is playing very much a theatrical character, so he's playing the character within a character within a character.
The absurdist comedy that we know and love him for.
And this is what Andy Kaufman was all about. He's the deconstructionist comedian, or because he doesn't even say he's a comedian. Doesn't like being called a comedian. He's a song and dance man, and he's like, I don't even know how to make people laugh. I don't even know how to be funny, but I know how to do this. And he's reading out the Great Gatsby in its entirety in an English accent. I was just like, okay, but.
Fair, I had to check up on that because I couldn't remember that in the documentary. I had to check up on that, and that actually fucking happened. But that to me is this is why I don't really sort of get or understand Andy Kaufman, because that's playing with the audience, but to me that's not playing with the audience. That's tricking them. That's abusing. That's abusing an audience that's come to see you to enjoy. Even you may not fucking call it comedy, you may not call yourself a comedian, but it's like Lee Evans turning up at a show and you're expecting Lee Evans to do, the physical comedian Lee Evans that's now retired. Hopefully he'll come back. It's like turning up to watch Lee Evans, right? And you're expecting him to bounce around the stage and get really sweaty, and instead he comes on and starts fucking reciting Shakespeare and does the entirety of Macbeth. That's not what you fucking go there for. And that's abusing. To me, it kind of annoyed me a little bit because I was like, he actually fucking did this. Like,
I was with Shapiro the whole film. I was kind of on Shapiro's. I'm like, Shapiro's making the most sense out of anybody in this film. Like,
because it's like, what right do you have to do that to your audience? Yeah, okay, the kids at college, but still, what right do you have to do that to an audience?
And this is what I was saying.
You pay £60 to go and watch Bill Bailey, and you're going, right, okay, he's going to come, he's going to play a sitar, he's going to, do a few song and dances, and instead he comes up and starts, I don't know, doing fucking, I don't know,
political
crochet
diatribe or something. Yeah.
I mean, he's got political fucking, stuff in there anyway. But that's what he's good at.
You know what I mean.
I mean, like doing some crochet or
crochet
sat in the corner. Like fucking, I don't know, knitting or something. It's like, well, what is this? And then just singing, just reading Roald Dahl or something. Like, no, that's not what your audience are coming to see. And I get, you try new things, you try something, you play something. Comedians do it all the time. They try new tricks, they try new, methods. What they don't do is completely fucking. So we use the phrase subvert the expectations and then fucking piss can all over what people have come to see. Like, no, and it didn't sit right with me. And I think that where is that in the film? Is that roughly just over halfway through? I think it is.
I want to say it's about halfway through. And this is what I was saying about, you have a responsibility not only to your audience, but you have a responsibility to the thing with this as well, which troubles me, is that he would walk around and be Andy all the time. And again, getting real actors in that worked with him. And like in the documentary says, everybody wants to be in the movie, they want to play themselves, and they want to be the most important person in Andy's life. And they do nothing with any of those people that come back. They do nothing with Lorne Michaels.
They're in the background, don't they? Apart from Jerry Lawler.
Jerry Lawler, because he's got an active part in it. And again, that's for me is the best part of the film, best part of Andy's act. I absolutely get that to a degree. I don't get everything, and I probably never will. I tried my best to understand him and to get a bit more information about him and his life. But there's a responsibility, and I feel like Jim Carrey has a responsibility as well, not only to Andy's memory. Like, and again, I have a problem with biopics that make people out to be saints. Like, you know, like it's the don't say anything bad about somebody, don't speak ill of the dead. You know, someone dies and they're like, oh, they were an angel, they never meant to do anything, they never did any harm. And it's like, that's not true though, is it? That's not true. Like we're all you know, they make a biopic about you and me, Andy. They're gonna be like, oh, he was so
Jesus
amazing,
Christ.
so great. They're not gonna go, oh, well, he was a little cunt when he was 16 years old, was he? You know, they're not gonna talk about that bit. But we both know we probably were, and definitely were. You know, in my case anyway. But you know, there's a responsibility, and what kind of freaked me out a little bit is when he meets the real family of Andy Kaufman. Like they come and visit him on the set, and he doesn't drop it. He keeps it going.
And it's like right the way through.
Yeah. Now another thing, again, this whole sainthood thing that I'm talking about. Like in the documentary, they say that Andy's daughter came to the set to meet Jim, and he'd never met his daughter. He had her out of wedlock. That's how they describe it in the film, anyway, in the documentary. Never knew her dad, but found out who he was and that he was on Taxi. Watched the sitcom, but he never met her. And she comes down and speaks to Jim, and he is Andy. He's being Andy, which you know, Jim describes as being quite therapeutic. But I think that's kind of dangerously, almost emotionally abusive, potentially. Like that's crossing the line for me. And there's bits in the documentary where he's like, you know, he's talking as if he is Andy, or he's talking as if he is Tony Clifton. He's like, I was possessed, they got in my body and they did things. And like in the documentary, he goes on all these violent, angry tirades. And a lot of people in the documentary and outside of it are going, that wasn't Andy. He didn't do that. And it's almost like Jim is working stuff out about himself through these characters, through Clifton, through Kaufman. He's talking about Jim and like, oh, he just wants everyone to love him, and he wants the laugh, and he doesn't know who he is, and he, you know, and this is, you know, Jim almost speaking through these characters about himself, or releasing those inner demons in a way, in a form of therapy. But I feel like, go have therapy. Don't use the memory and the history and the legacy and the people in his life to figure your own shit out. That is not fair. That is not fair on them. It's also not fair on Milos Forman, who's one of the best directors of all time. Amadeus, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, who I think, because of all the stuff that Jim is doing, he even invaded Amblin Studios, where like Steven Spielberg is based. And he, as Tony Clifton, was like, come out, you make shit films. I'm going to tell you how to make a good film, you know. And it's like, and people are genuinely scared and terrified by him and freaked out. People are crying and they're not sure how to react. And then, you know, and some of the actors are getting, like, the dad has an argument with him. They get too kind of into it, and the guy playing his dad gets into a big argument. One of the makeup ladies is crying because it was so real. It's I feel this is my problem with method acting as well, is when people method act, you never see someone method acting Aunt May, do you? Like a really nice, motherly, caring character. No. When they method act, they act fucking atrociously. It's usually like Jared Leto in The Joker, for example. He's sending fucking used condoms to people, which I'm sure is some fucking form of sex crime or something like that. Like, you never see someone go, I'm gonna you know, method act this really nice, but I'm gonna method act Santa. Nobody fucking does that. Nobody ever fucking does that. It's always someone being an absolute cunt. And again, Andy is, from what I've heard, and again, when the film came out, a lot of people were like, they don't get Andy. That is not what he was like. They don't give him, you know, he didn't, you know, he wasn't like that. His style of comedy wasn't like that. They didn't appreciate his genius. They just don't get him. And I don't know if that's a Jim thing, or if it's a writing thing, or if it's a directing thing. But I even watching Andy's stuff, I still don't know who he is. And you know, I think they tried their best. I think Jim, you know, like Milo stuck him aside and was like, I can't work with either of these two. Where's Jim? I need to speak to Jim. Like, that is like, you could see him just being fucking exhausted. Milos Forman having to deal with all this shit.
Looking after like two children almost, isn't it?
Yeah.
two
crazy.
children on a big budget set, and that's the problem. Like, I think the fine line in method acting is sort of looking at, say, Robert De Niro in Goodfellas or something like that, or in The Godfather, or Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood, or again Gangs of New York.
Yeah.
The difference is, for me, it's whether it fits, whether it's fit for purpose, or it's fit for purpose. So Robert De Niro in Goodfellas, you'd say, okay, it's fit for purpose that he's in this character, the way he's presented himself, the way he's walking, the way he's talking, the way he's gesturing and things like that. It's not, to me, that wouldn't be disruptive.
No.
But that, where there's the sequences in the documentary where he's playing the foreign man, in this, and he's talking that way off camera, he's talking that way to people on set, saying, no, I don't want this, I want another one, do another one, I want another one, and it's like, well, slow down. And you can see the director at that point, like, yeah, well, you did great, you're playing. And he's going, I'm not playing, I'm right here, who are you talking to? And he's like, come on, fucking knock it off just a fucking little bit.
Well, if we like, the thing is, I think method acting is the privilege of people making millions of dollars. They can be told somebody, don't go up and talk to them, don't go up and speak to them, they're in character, don't disturb them. That's why you can have your Daniel Day-Lewis's going off in a corner and being in character all day. That's why you can have your Robert De Niro's doing that as well. If you and me went on the Manchester Fringe Central, did a fucking Fringe play, and I was a fucking serial rapist, you think I could go around all day, acting like a fucking creep, and it would be all right?
Of course, you get away with talking to people in a certain fucking manner. Absolutely fucking not.
Exactly.
You'd be fucking tarred and feathered, and that'd be it.
I played
a job again.
You came to see me in Westernized, didn't you? With me, Nathan, Rasheen, Scott, and everybody who've been on my podcast. And I played a fucking an Irish racist Western villain. You think if I went around talking to people like that all day, every day in my normal life, that I would get a fucking way with it? Are you having a laugh? There was no fucking way. Like, even Nathan, who was directing the show, wouldn't have put up with that. He'd be like, what are you doing? Like, what the fuck are you doing? Shut up. Do what you're supposed to do. Take direction and get the fuck on with it. Because that's the job. You turn it on and you turn it off. Don't get me wrong. I think method acting can get the results. And they can appear on screen.
Quite clearly, it can. We've seen it in many a great film. But we've seen the counterpoints as well. So we saw it in The Godfather with Marlon Brando, and then we saw it fucking counterpoint, Dr. Moreau's fucking island. No, fucking no. Shut up. Be told you're doing shit and acknowledge it and then change it. Yeah.
But it's that power and privilege again of being able to do and say what they want, and just and again, like a jobbing actor, someone who's making fucking some acting jobs I did where it was 25 quid a show. I do a 2 hour, hour and a half hour show, and it was paid 25 quid. You imagine if I walked into a school
less than that.
I walk into a school as fucking Macduff and going, fare thee wench, how art thou? And
we're in a kilt and no fucking underwear and a big fucking broadsword. See how far you get through those fucking doors.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like, why are you not wearing your trousers? Well, I am from the olden times. It's not fucking feasible. Let's face it. And again, you don't, like you said, Andy, you don't need to take it as far as some of these people did. And I think Carrey takes it far too far, in my opinion, where again, like he's arguably being emotionally abusive to the people who knew him. Like Danny DeVito's almost in every scene in this film. I don't know how he felt about it. I don't know how close he was with Andy. I don't know how close any of these people who are playing the real characters are. But I think Carrey was being, emotionally, fiscally, acting wise, completely irresponsible.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because I think with this film, there are moments where I was like, okay, yeah, I'm having mixed feelings about this. I get it. I understand certain parts of it. I'm just trying to drum up because I think I sent you a message, didn't I?
Yeah.
Just let me see if I can find it.
I do have a theory though as well, but I'll save that for the end. I do have a theory about all of this whole thing, the documentary and the film together. I have a theory.
Yeah, I think I just put like, oh yeah, like I said, I did mention the about being invested in both of them. But the thing is with this film, I think I've put it in the message. I think the thing is like if at any point in this film you have the shred of doubt about either one of them and the character, the performance, then immediately it loses you. Immediately it loses you. And I think that there was a point, and I'm trying to think when it was. I think it is legitimately just the fucking the Great Gatsby bit, and I was just like,
yeah,
fucking hell. And the audience is disappearing. The audience has disappeared from him. There's only a few people fast asleep, and I went, God, I feel like this now. I feel like I want to turn it off. I feel like I've seen everything I need to see.
It's very formulaic as a biopic, unfortunately. Even though the start of the film makes it out like it's not going to be a formulaic one, because it's Andy, it's a black and white. He's doing the act.
Yeah.
You know, he's having, because he's like, oh, it's the end of the film, not the beginning. So it makes you feel like it's going to be this kind of, you know, absurdist biopic, which is more in like keeping with Andy's kind of feelings and comedy and stuff. But then it just becomes like unbearably bland.
Yeah, I mean it's surprising that that's the way it goes. I mean, it tries to do something emotionally impactful at the end, and completely falls flat for me because there's that weird sort of conspiracy, and they almost play into in this film. There's a couple of moments when I was like, oh my God, they're actually giving it credence, whereby because of everything he does and where he confuses the audience and plays plays up to like, oh, this isn't what I was on about, you know, this is the truth, this is the lie, and all that. There's that moment when he gets cancer, and I think it's his sister, isn't it, his younger sister, who goes, you actually believe in this shit? Because she observes the doctor wearing like brown pants and trainers, and she's like, he's not wearing what a fucking doctor would wear. And that, for me, I kind of went, oh, we're actually going to acknowledge that insanity. We're going to acknowledge, because there is that conspiracy theory that he faked his own death.
Well, I mean they do it right at the end, don't they? They do it right at the end. They say a year. So spoilers for the film. If you don't know about Andy or the film, he dies of cancer, of lung cancer, and he
quite a rare form of lung cancer.
Yeah,
as well.
he wasn't a smoker, so it was a very rare kind of virulent form. So he dies. They have the big funeral. It's all very grand. He's got this, you know, big TV screen. He's playing his act and stuff. And a year later, Tony Clifton is performing. And initially you think, oh, it's Bob Zamuda again, because they do the thing where he is sometimes Tony Clifton, and, you know, it's another gag, it's another bit. And then Andy comes out and plays the bongos. And it's like, what? But he's supposed to be Tony Clifton, because it's like a well-known secret. And, you know, and that was, again, Andy and Zamuda trying to mess with people. So at the end, you see Tony Clifton, you know, and all this absolute kind of very, and even like his version of Clifton doesn't sound like Andy's version of Clifton. If you go and watch, Clifton's very like kind of laid back. It's not like like Jim Carrey makes him out like he's a cartoon character.
Yeah, and I'm a fucking maniac.
Yeah, exactly. And again, there's I think there's a way to do the Tony Clifton where it's not quite as aggressive or violent or like abusive.
Because he's just rampantly violent throughout the film, isn't he, Tony Clifton? I mean, there's something a little bit endearing about it.
I quite like the character. There's something about it I really like Tony Clifton.
Yeah,
but yeah,
but then it does overstay its welcome.
Definitely.
There's a point where you go like, oh, for fuck's sake, are we doing this again? And again, it just reminds me of all the fucking problems that I have with modern comedy, where they're just like, the joke has surpassed. You've done 2, you've done 3. Why are you on joke 7 of the exact same fucking joke? Move on. It's not funny now.
It's the improv thing, isn't it? Where they just let the camera roll and just
It's
you
the
know, just
fucking
go for it.
screaming goats in Thor: Love and Thunder. For fuck's sake, you've done it once. Shut up. It's not fucking funny.
Andy, let's not get started on that film. Fucking hell, we'll be here all
No,
day.
but it's still the rule of three has never died. The rule of three still exists. It still exists in comedy. You overstay your welcome, you'll get found out, and it happens. It happens in that. It happens with Tony Clifton in this film. You get found out.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
Yeah.
interrupted.
No, it's all right. I'm with you. We've talked about it before, Andy. I fucking despise that film, frankly. I spoke to somebody the other day, and she went, I think it was Megan actually, and she was saying, "Oh, I hate Love and Thunder." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm with you." Anyway, the end of the film, Tony Clifton comes out, but then the camera pans. You see his act for a little bit, and then the Tony pans to Zamuda, who is stood there in the audience, kind of chuckling to himself, which is implying that this cancer diagnosis and death was all staged. Which initially in that discussion is going like, "Oh yeah, we can work with this. This will be really funny. You can get ill again, and then you can get better, and then you can get ill again, and you can die, and then you can come back. It's going to be really what a gag." And I don't know if that's kind of insensitive. Obviously, it's kind of what Andy would have wanted people to believe because that's who he was and that's the kind of humor he had. I'm
all a big con, a big shtick.
Yeah, and again, I like black humor. I'm a big fan of like dark humor, and again, much like Andy Kaufman. Again, like I said earlier, it's got me into trouble sometimes, or people have misinterpreted or misunderstood what I meant or the joke and things like that. And yeah, but I don't know. I kind of felt like this conspiracy theory the way the film plays out, if it was more a bit like the editing and the style of the film was a bit more like weird and out there and not as that's the thing, he's such an unconventional person and performer. The film is so conventional, apart from that opening and the ending. It's entirely just another bland biopic you've seen about any fucker, any celebrity, politician, whoever, historical figure, you name it. You've seen them all, and it, and that I don't know, is maybe it's insensitive. I'm not sure, but I felt like, again, the family had been heavily involved and spoken to Jim and, and talked to him, and them implying that their grief wasn't real, wasn't valid. And that Andy would just like rock up one day after the premiere, or turns up to the premiere of Man on the Moon or something. After all these years. Again, there's a lot of legal ramifications with faking your own death, as that guy in the canoe found out.
Well, good God, yeah.
But I have a theory. I have a theory now, Andy. I'm gonna.
Well, go on. Because all I was going to say in sort of counter to that would be that, it almost looks like they are playing with the conspiracy. But then, if the guys was to be, that end shot was be, or we can always remember Andy for what he was, that doesn't play out properly. Like we're all remembering a time when we were watching Andy on stage, or maybe Tony Clifton's performing and he is playing Tony Clifton, and he has sort of like an out of body experience where he's seeing Tony Clifton as Andy played him before he took on the role. But it doesn't play out like that. It doesn't come out as that's what it is. It comes out as that Tony Clifton is there, and I think it's.
I think if they made it more vague,
if they made it more vague, more ethereal, maybe, or something like that. But no, it's because again, like you said, with the way the film starts, they could have done something very similar with that ending shot and had it. That is, it's out of body sort of experience, or I don't know. It doesn't work well for me, and I just. The sheer fact that they even give it credence that he faked his own death, because that never came from them. It was maybe it was an idea they had on the table when they didn't realize that he was being honest. Again, that's just part of they play it in the film, don't they? Say, "Oh, this is a great idea, and then he's like, "No, this is actually happening." And then everybody breaks down. The sheer fact that they didn't just double down on the emotional weight is disappointing to me. But then at the same time, with the emotional weight, I don't think the film earned it either.
No,
I don't think
absolutely not.
The film earned me going, "Oh man, this is really sad. Oh wow, this is so upsetting."
Because I will say. Go on.
Sorry. I'll just say, like, counterpoint to a film like again, I'll bring up Schindler's List. I mean, I'm going to refrain from spoilers as much as possible, but bringing up that film,
I've seen a bit of
it. You get to the point at the end of the film where you're like, when he breaks down and he's trying to give up more to save more. He's trying to give up something. He tries to give up a pin to save at least one or two, and you're like, well, this is a man who's had to go against everything, who's done terrible things himself, but then has slowly tried to do right by everybody else, to the point where he's going against his own benefits, trying to get away quickly and quietly, give up the car. Somebody take the fucking car. We can get 10, we can get 20, we can save 20. It earns the emotional weight, it earns the emotional punch because of what happens in the film, because of what the character does in the film, what he observes, what he witnesses, the pain that he inflicts on others, and then tries to reconcile by doing more and trying to save more people. With this, I didn't get a sense that any of the emotional weight it tries to bring at the end with the cancer diagnosis was earned, because fundamentally, I don't really like him as a character.
No,
I don't really like him as a character, and that sounds awful, but does that mean I don't like him as a person? Probably, but again, we don't know who the fucking real person is, really, do we?
We don't.
Because
we don't.
the whole thing with his father early on in the film, I was like, right, okay, this is interesting, but then it just goes straight into it. We don't go back to any of it really, apart from when his parents are watching him in the audience at SNL, and you're like, oh, okay, they're obviously worried that he's going to fail. But again, we don't come back to that. We don't have any moments where he is speaking to his parents or engaging them, saying, like, or his father goes, "I should have trusted you. I should have believed in you."
Yeah,
this is
because they are very supportive of him. They're there in the audience. They're watching him on TV.
Yeah.
And he even says, I don't want to tell them because I feel like I've jerked them around my entire life with all these gags and stuff. Eventually he does. But again, that's the question, is that part of the gag and things like that?
Yeah, and it comes off so weird.
I think my favorite scene in the whole film is where Andy goes to, I think is it Malaysia, or where's he go?
Yeah. He goes to some Far Eastern country, doesn't he? And
I'm gonna say Malaysia. I can't remember the country. I could be entirely wrong. Apologies, I'm picking the wrong country. But he goes somewhere because they perform what you call psychic surgery, is what they call it. And Andy feels like they'll be able to remove the cancer from them. It's basically you stick your fingers in and you pull out various organs and bits of body, and then they kind of wipe you down, and there's no wound. You're fine, basically. And there's this big long line of people, and you see it done, and you guys washing his hands, and he's pulling out all these bits and pieces out of a guy, and Andy's there, and he's lying on there. He's bald now. He's in a wheelchair. He's very frail. He lies on the bed, and he washes his hands, and he watches the guy, and he's palming some like chicken guts. To kind of, he's pretending to do psychic surgery. It's not real. And he's pulling those out for people to believe that it is what he's doing. It's a performance act. It's a performance art.
Yeah.
And Andy looks at that and realizes how funny and how like he gets the joke. Like he's fell for it. He believed that this could work. Yeah. This could happen. He fell for the gag. And I thought that moment was very effective. Again, I don't think it's like, I don't want to say it's a bad film. I think it's just a poor film. I think
misguided. I think.
Yeah, I think like all the people in it are fine. I think Courtney Love, actually, I quite enjoyed her performance. I think Danny DeVito is very good in it. But again, with the people casting real people in the roles that they played 20 odd years ago, in them being themselves 20 odd years ago, it's kind of undone with DeVito being the manager, because the manager is in the film. He's the guy who fires Andy at the start. That's his original manager. Yeah. And so why not do that?
They had to remove Danny DeVito from his role in Taxi.
Exactly, yeah. And
because they were like, who's going to play you in these taxi scenes? He went, no, just remove me.
yeah,
Okay.
right, sure, I guess. But then that's ruining the kind of, if you're going to have real people come back and play those roles, it has to kind of
Yeah.
be consistent. Like if you're going to have Lorne Michaels come back, then Danny DeVito needs to play himself, and
Yeah.
you know
You're going to
the
have
manager
talk show hosts come back as well. Like,
yeah, and like
fucking hell.
yeah, they had David Letterman be
Yeah.
David Letterman,
Who
but
refused to wear a wig and makeup?
of course it did. Of course it did.
So, I'm not going to do that. You want
Yeah.
me in this? I'm just going to be as I am now. All right.
Now, I'm gonna go with this theory now, Andy.
Yes.
Now,
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
we it's fine. We're talking around it. I was going to do it a bit later, but I thought let's just do it now. So I have a theory now. I've kind of got my real feelings across. Now, on watching the film and then watching the documentary and learning about Andy himself and what he found funny and the gags and people not knowing what is a joke, I feel that maybe Jim Carrey is pulling a gag not only on the filmmakers, not only on his cast and crew, not only on the documentarians that are making that documentary. I think he's doing a, again, 20 odd year joke that we're all the butt of. Like this is him, you know, because during the rehearsal in the movie, him and Jerry Lawler got into a fight, which was on news, which was again another gag that Andy was doing. So all this method acting, all him acting out, and him being this unruly, you know, actor, you know, this method actor, is that itself Andy doing a Kaufman style gag that we are still not laughing at because we still don't get it.
Yeah. Okay.
That's another theory, because again, like, I'm mad and angry and I don't like the film. I didn't enjoy the film. I think Jim Carrey doesn't look good in that documentary because it again, he does acknowledge
plan.
Yeah, exactly. Was this actually what Jim Carrey wanted? He wanted everyone to think he was this arsehole and use the documentary to continue that gag and to, you know, because people will have only heard about that kind of stuff. It was never released. And the film studio is like, we don't want it released. We don't want this. And Zamuda, he's talking to Zamuda constantly. Like, and he's even like messing with Zamuda a little bit with what is the truth, what is accurate. So it wouldn't surprise me if they were both in on the gag. Like they did Tony Clifton went to the Playboy Mansion and he's there for hours and hours and hours. And then Jim Carrey turned up and like, you know, Hugh Hefner's like, what the fuck? You know, aren't you Jim Carrey? And he's like, you know, I'm Tony Clifton. And again, that's the gag. He's doing gags within gags within gags.
Yeah.
And there's multiple levels to this comedy. And again, I'll never, you and I will probably never fully understand it. But that was my thinking, is maybe deep down, this thing he's doing, this, maybe even this person he's become, maybe one day he will reveal, maybe on his deathbed or something, that, that was all a gag. It was all a stitch up. And nobody really understood or got it. And that's between me and Andy and Clifton. But he does say again, how far do I take this? Like, he talks about Andy and he talks about Clifton, and it's almost like they are him, or he's another facet of him. But there's one moment in the documentary he goes, how far do I take this? So you fucking know what you're doing. You know what you're doing. And is he talking about how far do I take this as method acting, or how far do I take this as the gag, as the stitch? So that is my theory. Again, I don't know. I don't even know if I believe it's true, but I was trying to think like Carey, like Kaufman. Why would Jim do this? Why would he still do a documentary so many years later? That, again, I know it got a lot of good reviews, but it doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't make him look like a good guy. You know. But yeah, that was my theory. I don't know how you feel about it.
I know. I mean, the thing, it lines with this film in general and the stuff we saw with Andy Kaufman. It's so bizarre that it could be fucking true. because a lot of the stuff that he did was so bizarre, dragged on the jokes, like the whole wrestling bit went on for fucking ages,
Months
like
and years, I think.
yeah, just ages until the punchline was done, the story was done. He literally had his own wrestling story that we see in WWE. These soap opera stories just went on and on
Jim
and
Ross
on.
is there. Jim Ross is
Yeah,
there.
yeah, it's almost akin to like with the fucking bloodline going on at the minute in SmackDown. You know, it's just going on and on. It's EastEnders, you know, in America, coming to a city near you, Calgary or whatever the fuck it is. Any next week, Friday Night SmackDown, EastEnders, the bloodline. You know, it's that kind of like ridiculousness that just goes on and on and on to the point where people. You accept it and you believe it in your own way. You know, you believe wrestling stories in your own way. You believe them for, you know, the jokes, for the fighting and whatever. It's all ridiculous. You know it's ridiculous, but there is still something in you that animal, you know, that basic instinct of watching entertainment when you go, oh, this is good, this is interesting, this is all right. I'm guilty of it. I've got back into wrestling recently, and there's been some storylines where I've been, oh fucking hell, I can't believe they did that, and then I sit back and go, it's just wrestling, it's not real. What am I doing? Like, you know, certain things like Rhea Ripley coming out, she's on crutches and she hits fucking somebody else with the crutch, and you're like, my god, she's hitting with the crutch. It's not a fucking real crutch, but she's hitting with it anyway. It's the ridiculousness of it, but it's so bizarre. With this, the whole theory is so bizarre that could it be true? There's nothing stranger, you know, than fiction. You know, it could it be fucking real? Could this have been just a brilliant fucking gag that Jim Carrey, in his method acting, was thinking, Andy would fucking love this. Andy would love this joke if I just fucking did this and maintained it for 20 odd years before we release a fucking documentary. And everyone will think I'm a knob for fucking years. I'll just get on with it and do, you know, Mr. Popper's Penguins or something, whatever the fuck it is. You know, I'll just go and do films that I want to do, you know, until we get to Sonic, where I'll backtrack on never doing sequels and do 3 in a row. And, you know,
well, it was retired, wasn't he? He was retired until he did that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because he swore against doing sequels after the fucking Ace Ventura when Nature Calls, because it was fucking disastrous. It was dreadful. You know, he ended up selling out, you know, on that character. Became less, you know, less of a, you know, questionable geezer who loves women and pets and just a family fucking friendly affair. Who knows? That's just it. It's so bizarre, and it fits in with this film. It fits in with Andy Kaufman in general. The theory is that bizarre. It could be fucking true. You might be onto something there, but again, maybe we'll never know. Who knows?
Yeah. What did you like about the film, Andy? That's what I'm interested in.
I think I liked how. I think there were people around that were trying to ground him. That were trying to, you know, ground us as audience members, trying to guide us through what this mystery is. I think Danny DeVito does a very good job in this film. Kind of very unsung. I feel like he's a very unsung person in this movie, in a movie that's all, you know, Andy Kaufman and you know, Jim Carrey. I think he does do a very good job of trying to keep everything together, and I think the director, for his part as well. I mean, he didn't do a fucking movie after this for fucking years, did he?
Yeah, about 7 years, I think. Yeah.
I mean, that's a problem with the film. Yeah, the film was somewhat of a critical success, but then it flopped massively, didn't it? It just didn't get anything, didn't get the audience. And again, there you go. I mean, did people really want to see Jim Carrey as Andy Kaufman? Did people want to see, you know, Andy Kaufman and not Jim Carrey? It's such a strange dichotomy. But I think fundamentally, Danny DeVito for me was the only thing keeping me going in this film, because there were points at every turn where it was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You got to think about this. You got to come back. We got to, we got to really think about this.
Yeah.
But I mean, because that was like me. I was kind of sat here going, what are you doing? What is this? What was this will mean? And I liked it that we had somebody who was there with us.
Yeah.
Like as an outsider of all this chaos, going, what the fuck? Like, because initially, weirdly enough, you do initially get invested at the same time that Danny DeVito is invested.
Yeah.
And then you slowly start to fall away. Well, I did. I slowly started to fall away when I was trying to figure out why it's not working for me. And I almost felt like Danny DeVito's character was in the same vein and breadth of us. Like, this is not working for me, Andy. We need to figure it out. We need to draw it back.
It's one of these. I remember watching like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles documentary a few years ago, and it's full of information. Talks about the creators and the whole kind of legacy of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and how successful they were. But they were like at every point in that documentary, it goes, and we did the comic, and it was a huge success, and we did the cartoon. We thought it might fail. It was a huge success. Then we did a toy line. Thought it might fail. It was a huge success. Then we did the movie. Thought it might fail. It was a huge success. Not a very interesting documentary because of that. And I feel like Andy kind of is one of these people that's kind of failed upwards. And again, I'm not taking anything away from him or his comedy, but the film does not present it as, it seems to be like everybody loves him, but you're not quite sure why they love him. It's not clear to us, the audience. Because again, like most people our age, we didn't, it's beyond our years. He's not part of our kind of short. Like Jim Carrey is our Andy Kaufman in so many ways, in a way. And we don't know. It's before our time, quite literally before our time. And he had a very short, kind of brief, burned out like a star, and I just didn't see what everybody else saw in him. Like even the studio execs are agreeing to all these ridiculous terms. For him to be on a sitcom, and they're like, "I've got to do this only with this amount and this amount and this and that," and like you don't get a moment where like the taxi cast are saying like, "Why are we here week in week out?" And he comes in, Kaufman comes in for 3 days a week. Like that's not really fair, is it? Why did he get such a great deal? Because he was on SNL and did a thing, and people were talking about him. And then he causes all these issues and problems and difficulties. And like you said, I identify with Danny DeVito because, and I'll be honest, I'm surprised that Danny DeVito or the Shapiro stuck with him as much as he did. As long as he did. And like looking at all the posters in his office, that was kind of one of my little things. Every time they went into his office, I was like, "Oh, The Man with Two Brains! I love that movie. Wish I was watching that." I was like, "I'm like Ben Shapiro. Like Shapiro clearly knows what he's talking about. Look at all this talent he has, and he knows. But Andy just wants to do things his way. He didn't want to be part of Taxi. He didn't want to do a sitcom and all this, and he has to convince him." For me, like I think Danny DeVito legitimizes the film. Otherwise, like there's no way you can relate to Andy. Let's be honest, because you don't know who he is. You try and figure out who he is, but even him himself to anybody else around him is an enigma. Maybe he was an enigma to himself. And that unfortunately I think is the problem when you're doing a film about how great he was and how cool he was and how funny he was, but you don't have an inside track, which is again one of the criticisms that Jim Carrey won an Emmy, but I think it was purely not for the film but for the impression. It was for the like he could become Andy to a degree, and that's what won him it. I don't think the film is that didn't win any awards because they know it's not a good film. Is it a good performance? Yeah, probably quite good. I'm still kind of I'm on the fence about it with all the other stuff that we know about it, and but yeah, it's so bizarre. I thought Courtney Love was really good. Again, like kind of grounds him, makes it a bit more real, makes him challenges him, questions him. I wasn't really a big huge Courtney Love fan anyway, but I thought for what the time she had and what she had to do and her role in this film, I thought she was very effective. And again, she's in it very briefly, but makes it feel a bit more tangible, a bit more real. It's not this guy just kind of going, off in his own world sort of thing. But yeah, it's so strange.
It is. I feel like the film, like for me, just avoids a lot of the difficult sort of questions
Yes.
around it.
Yes.
Like fundamentally, like because, like you say, the executives are all like, yes, we'll give you this, we'll give you that, we'll give you everything you fucking want. And yet, when he goes against them, there's that moment where that executive who plays a henchman in fucking Tomorrow Never Dies.
Oh, yeah. I think it's
what's
Vincent. I want to say it's Vincent Schiavelli. I want to say.
yeah.
His name.
Oh,
He's in He's in Ghost. He's in
Dr.
Batman
Kaufman. He
Returns.
plays Dr. Kaufman in Tomorrow Never Dies. Weirdly enough, so he's
yeah,
Dr.
he
Kaufman. I could shoot you from Stuttgart to still create the proper effect. Yeah, fucking shit.
That's a fucking actor. I love him. He's great.
Yeah, but again, like there's a moment in the film where when they play that skit where he refuses to do the marijuana joke, and then they cut to ad break, and then they go back into it, and he's supposed to tell everyone, "Oh, it's a joke, haha, it's a big joke." And when the camera comes back on, Andy Kaufman's like, "It's not a joke. I fucking hate all this shit." And then the executive's quite clearly like, "Oh, you motherfucker!"
Yeah.
But we don't get any resounding sort of reaction to it. All we get is like SNL going, "Oh, should we get him back?" No. All right then. And it's like, well, where's the difficult questions?
Yeah.
Like the difficult questions, like you said, about the cast reacting in a certain way to him. Where's the difficult questions of, him making these demands? How did we get to that point where they were willing to accept the demands? Was it purely because of the reaction to SNL? I mean, sometimes it is. People just what's hot at the minute. What worked really well on SNL? Well, that guy, that skit. We've seen it quite recently. To be fair, with the hot tour girl. What's flying at the minute? She's made that one viral thing. So give her this, give everything. Fair play. Fucking well done, love. Well done. You're set for life now. But again, what are the ramifications of that? We know what the fucking ramifications are of that. This immediate blast up and rise to fame. Well, The Simpsons does it great, and you, well, kids, sometimes just fucking falls apart. The door slams behind him. We know.
Well, they even have the line bar scene in this when he's reading. They're like, do Latka, do the foreign man,
say the line. But again, they don't really deal with that.
No.
In terms of how is that making him feel, because we only see so much of the surface with him. It's strange. Yeah. I feel like that should have been a really good moment where, if you're gonna do a biopic, that would have been an introspective moment where maybe everything goes quiet or silent around him before he goes into The Great Gatsby. Maybe he's like, is this all they fucking want from me? I'm not trying to be funny, but people seem to think this is the comedy, but this is not what I'm about. This is not what I want. So I will read the fucking Great Gatsby all in one go because it's the only way I can shut them up. Where's that sort of introspective thought? Where's that sort of difficult question? Because that's a difficult question to ask the audience.
Where's that doubt in his comedy, whether he's funny? Yeah. Like we get early on, like you said, you kind of are a little bit invested. And when he has that moment, I was kind of like, oh shit, he's now this one thing, and now that's all they want. I kind of I get that the audience demands that. There are moments where I'm like, oh shit, but then like you said, we don't linger on that, we don't deal with that, we don't there's no real consequences for him. He's kind of he's getting on, like even when Taxi's cancelled, he's not particularly bothered, is he? He's kind of goes,
he actually celebrates it.
He kind of goes, and like deep down, he's sad about it, even though he's not acting like he's sad about it. We know that, we can see that in the acting, which is good. Yeah. But again, it's kind of just, it's almost like they're ticking the boxes, unfortunately. I think with a biopic, like you have to have a good idea what you're trying to say, what the theme is, what you want to explore. You can't just put someone's life on screen and hope for it to do well. You have to do something with it. You have to say something about them. Like me and Nathan did Walk Hard, which is an excellent parody of music biopics. So much so that when the new Bob Dylan trailer came out, everyone's making the same Walk Hard references and jokes,
Yeah.
because now it's kind of, in a way, that movie is so great, it's kind of ruined all the conventions of a music biopic, and it kind of also bleeds into regular biopics. And I watched Ray, and I watched Walk the Line as well. I hadn't seen either of them. I thought, you know what, now is a good time to watch it, because then I can watch those films and kind of appreciate them a bit more. And there's a few other jokes and references I got a little bit more this time. And that's the thing. Like, what do you pick? What do you use? What are you trying to say? Do you want to? Does it? Walk Hard's kind of like a redemption story, isn't it? And then and so's Ray, because they're overcoming their addictions, their problems, and their personal demons to get to a point where they are celebrated and loved. And it does work. Yeah, they are kind of formulaic and fairly straightforward, but the performances are there. And the story is there, and you see him at the lowest ebb, and then they rise. But this is kind of, again, almost, I don't know, it's not a sick joke, but it's kind of an odd, weird, absurdist thing that, again, maybe Andy would have liked. I don't know. But again, that's probably why it doesn't necessarily connect to the audience, because maybe Milos had an idea, the producers had an idea, and Jim had an idea. But they kind of just went, what happened in his life? What should we talk about? Oh, taxis are getting cancelled. Okay. We have to say it because it happened. But what does it add to the story? What does it add to his personal life? What does it add to the finale of the film?
Yeah.
Ultimately, not much. We see him, doing bits from Taxi because people want to see that. Because people he did that, and that's what they want to see. But does it really add anything? Does it say anything? They cancelled recently a Hulk Hogan biopic for obvious reasons, and Chris Hemsworth was going to be in it, but apparently that was going to be about the sex tape. Apparently, I think, if I remember rightly, it was going to be more so about that, which I thought, that is an interesting take. That is an interesting way to approach this, because he's not and even if they did do a Hulk Hogan biopic, by the way, Hulk Hogan is an absolute prick. End all. Like, on every level, Hulk Hogan is a prick. I don't care if he's your hero or not. If you look into him, if you read any of the backstage stuff, if you read anybody's opinions on Hulk Hogan in the business, they think he's a prick, and they're right. I'll be honest. Like, just all you have to do is Google.
We're all about honesty here.
All you have to do is Google Hulk Hogan. You'll find a fucking shit ton of stories. You'll have stories from The Undertaker, The Rock, all Ric Flair, all the fuckers, because he was like the top dog and everything. Also a racist on top of all of that, and all this other shit. But again, that's my opinion. If you love Hulk Hogan, you're allowed to love Hulk Hogan, but you can at least acknowledge some of the shit he's done in his career and his life. Like, I like Stan Lee. Was a lot of his business practices very good? No, he fucked over Steve Ditko, fucked over Jack Kirby. Do I still like Stan Lee? Yeah, I do. I appreciate him on one level, but I can still appreciate he was a bit of a cock as well. And that's fine. And that's what I want in my biopics. I want human experiences, human drama, relatable.
You want the fallibility, don't you?
Problems. Yeah, I don't want to be being told, this is funny, by the way. He was very funny. You should laugh at this. His style of humor was really funny. And then not kind of getting it, to a degree. I can't honestly say I totally get it. And I think that's the problem with biopics for me as well. You can't just say, right, we'll do, there was a lot of criticism for, Rocket Man. I kind of enjoyed, and that kind of had a little bit, that played around with the traditional biopic a little bit, which I enjoyed. And I didn't see Bohemian Rhapsody, but I heard bad things.
I didn't like it.
Yeah, I heard awful things about it, and I heard that there was some bad editing. I know Bryan Singer was involved, and then he left because he was lazy and also a very bad person for other reasons. But yeah, like, it's kind of hard to make those films and make them credible and work. And fucking Pharrell Williams has got a biopic coming out that he's fucking producing, and Pharrell Williams isn't that fucking nice a guy either. And at least he's doing something different with it. He's making it out of Lego pieces, but he's making out like he's a bit fucking saintly in that.
Yes. Are you going to discuss your music video that you did with Robin Thicke? Are you?
I don't think that's good. Are you going to discuss? So. Are you going to discuss how you didn't pay Khalees properly? No, I don't think you're going to make. That's not going to make the cut, is it? Because it's your fucking story you're producing and creating and voicing the character. So you're going to make it out that you're the best fucking thing since sliced bread, even though, again, you have fallible, and it's fine. Like I've not got an issue with people doing a bad thing, but like depict that life realistically. Show me those hardships. Again, look at Ray. Look at Walk Hard. We do see the realism. We see their kind of, their debauchery and shit.
Yeah, I think that's a product if you're creating a biopic while the person's still alive. Like, I'm not being funny. Like, what fucking reason do we have to have a Pharrell Williams biopic?
Nobody's asking for that.
No one's asking for that. You know what? That's your own fucking self-grandiose and.
I'll tell you exactly what that is, Andy. I'll tell you what this is. It's a vanity project.
Yeah. Needs more garden furniture because obviously nobody's buying music at the minute. So,
but I feel like Jim Carrey, this was like his vanity project a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say because there's a lot of juxtaposition between, what we see of Andy Kaufman in this to what Jim Carrey wanted us to see with his career after this. Because I was reading this film ended, I'm getting it straight from Wikipedia. So Man on the Moon ended a string of films starring Jim Carrey that had very successful opening weekends, grossed just 47 million against a budget of 52. Received mixed reviews, were unanimous praise for Carrey's portrayal as Andy Kaufman. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Right. And he won a Golden Globe, like you said.
Yeah.
So this film represented the first major sort of collapse of Jim Carrey's sort of, bankability. But like you said, was that part of the plan? Was it part of the shtick? Was it an element of Kaufman coming into Carrey and Carrey going into Kaufman playing this? I don't want to do Ace Ventura anymore. I don't want to do The Mask 2. I don't want to do another Truman Show. I don't want to do a follow up to that. I don't want to do Liar Liar 2, because I think I don't know whether those films ever had any plans for follow-ups or sequels. No, The Mask did. There was supposed to be a follow-up to it at some point. I mean, we did end up getting The Son of the Mask. Good God, kill me. But all those films were very successsible. So surely, I mean, even Ace Ventura 2, I think was mildly successful. But is that a case? Is this film a case of Jim Carrey going, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be the rubber face man, the jokey man, the flamboyant, over styling man. I want to be able to do those parts, those bits of the flamboyance and the overacting when I want to. So we get flecks of it in the Truman Show when he's doing bits and pieces, and then he flies off the handle. Is that where he wants that to be? He did say after finishing this he had to go away and figure out who he was again, because he was invited to be in the REM video. They do the score, they do the soundtrack, it's called The Great Beyond, Man on the Moon, of course. So he was, but in the documentary he says after this point, this was after this in the Truman Show, he felt that life was now an illusion, that no matter what he did, it was an illusion. It was all fake. It was all, just peripheral stuff. And he talks about his almost immediate meteoric rise to success, and how he put like a $10 million check that he wrote to himself, and he says, if I don't earn this, that's the end of my career. And his dad died, and he put the check in his dad's pocket before they buried him, and things like that. So, like, again, I'm not shitting on Jim Carrey entirely. No, I love him. I still love him as a performer. I still
he's
love
amazing. He's incredible.
He's incredible. The Mask. I still love the Truman Show. I love Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I think it's great. It's a great film. He's done some really great films. I love him in Sonic. The first Sonic film. I haven't seen Sonic 2, to be fair.
No, me neither.
I love him in the first Sonic film, because that's him. It's almost him re-embracing what we had in the 90s. And I was there for it. I was like, this is brilliant. You're on point. You're actually on fucking fire here, Mr. Carrey. And to be fair, I'm pleased that he has been so willing and open to come back as Dr. Robotnik, or
all three he's doing, yeah,
because I think after he did the first Sonic film, there was something in the back of my head where I went, he doesn't like doing sequels anymore. So I was like, is he going to come back for Sonic 2? Because this film has been a massive success because they redid the fucking CGI on Sonic himself. They redid it all. They listened to fan criticism and feedback, which is what a lot of you fucking film shows should fucking do. Rings of Power, looking at you. But they did it and they reaped the rewards, and now they're reaping even greater rewards because people love those films. So, and obviously he's kind of, very openly gone, well, the people are loving it, so why wouldn't I? The people love it, so why would I not come back?
And this is what we were saying earlier. He has a responsibility to his audience.
Yeah.
And he's realized that was successful. People like me in it. People like me in that role.
They want to see
very
me
well. They want to see me. What is best for my fans? Sometimes you've got to think about that. That's why Vincent Price and, Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee did all those kind of horror films, because that's what people wanted to see them in. They didn't want to see them do necessarily Hamlet and stuff. And they do great work in them. They're never bad films for having them in those roles. But there is something to be said for responsibility to your audience. And again,
it's like why people, sorry, just to cut in, why actors throwing the dummy out of the pram saying, I don't want to do a Marvel film, I don't want to do Star Wars anymore, I don't want to do this anymore. Why not? It's putting bread on your table. It's allowing you to buy the garden furniture that you're doing these fucking films for. Like, have some respect, not for the property, for the people that are paying the ticket, if you like.
Yeah. Well, that's going back to Christopher Lee.
The next few years, I think we will see over the next few years, and we saw it, I think, briefly with Deadpool Wolverine, that there's no harm in coming back and doing a role that people love you for, because what happens, you make fucking bank.
Yeah,
people will fucking line up to shake your hand when you do it successfully and when you do it well. It's exactly what's happened with Deadpool and Wolverine. People have lined up and gone, thank you, Mr. Jackman. That was fucking superb. Thank you, Mr. Ryan Reynolds, for doing that. It was fucking superb. Thank you, Mr. Director. It was fucking superb. It's not the greatest film in the world, but they threw everything to the wall and it all fucking stuck. So there we go.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm just wondering whether this film at the time was Carrey maybe trying to act out of his own inner demons, maybe at the time.
I think so.
This film fit the bill because of Kaufman's inner demons. Who knows? Only Jim Carrey knows, really, at this point, doesn't he?
Yeah. And there are moments in that documentary. I do. If you are going to watch Man on the Moon, I do recommend watching the documentary along with it.
Yeah, I would.
It's not an apology for the film or the way it's turned out, but I think you need to watch it in order to fully and completely understand Carrey and what his plan was, what his idea was, the whole process as well. Again, I don't like method acting. I'm not a fan of method acting, in general. If it gets results, it gets results. Again, you don't have to take it as far as some people take it. And again, that's their get out clause for being an arsehole. They just go, oh, it was the character. It wasn't me. It was Hitler. It was Hitler doing all those awful things to you.
It's just you.
Yeah, it's just you, and you're allowing yourself to be a prick through this framing.
I tried it. I was doing it at uni in the second year. I was trying to do it, and it didn't work. No. So in the third year, I fucking embraced the stupidity that I am. And there was somebody in our year who would not adapt. I'm not going to fucking say his name, but you know who I'm talking about.
I know exactly.
You know exactly who I'm talking about. And what happened in that third year? Everyone fucking rallied against him because he was a prick. So fucking stop it.
Called the tutor a cunt, I believe, as well.
Yeah, stop it. Listen to your fucking peers and fucking listen to the audience. Like, if it's not working, like it didn't work for me. I thought it would, but it didn't, because it's not. It's just not me.
I think that's the thing with actors as well. They go, you watch the kind of method acting films, don't you? You watch the Raging Bulls, you watch those kind of films. and you're like, that's the acting, that's real acting. But actually, when you get out into the thing, it's actually very theatrical, very over the top, very very. It's the opposite of that. It's like it's grandiose. It's larger than life. That for me is the real. That's more impressive than the fucking
you try doing that at Southport Little Theatre while fucking you're playing fucking Christmas Carol. Good luck to you.
Good
no
fucking
chance.
Yeah. They'd be like, I don't care. And that's what they said at uni. They went, I don't care how fucking good your acting is. You could be doing the best fucking acting of your life, but if no one can hear you, they don't give a fuck. They are walking out. They are walking out just like the walk out of Andy Kaufman's, F. Scott Fitzgerald reading of The Great Gatsby. That is what's going to happen. And again, I'm. This is not an indictment against Carrey and his style or his mental health or anything. He's been on a journey. There's some things he's said and done I didn't agree with. He did Kick-Ass. He did Kick-Ass 2. Do you remember that? Not a film I like.
Remember the rhetoric after it.
But he came immediately out, but just before the film came out, he went, I don't support this film and its use of guns. I was like, you have a man, you're a man with the inflatable. I'm back.
What the fuck? I don't know what happened then. You just kind of went,
I don't know. It says the connection, but my internet looks fine. There's no, I don't know. It must be something else. You still hear me all right?
Yeah, I can still hear you right. A bit crackly.
Right, let's finish up then, Andy. Let's finish up. It's still recording, so we'll still have this as a full recording. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, is there anything else we want to say about Man on the Moon before we finish?
Well, to be fair, you broke up when you were just about to go into the gun violence of Mr. Carrey. So
right.
I'm not sure if it recorded all that. To be fair.
Okay, so when Kick-Ass 2 was coming out, Carrey, he plays a character who sets a dog on a man, has bite his balls off. He comes out just prior to the film coming out. He goes, "I do not support the gun violence in this film." Did you not see the Kick-Ass? Did you not know what you were going into? Did you not read your script? I don't particularly agree with him doing that. Him going to the fashion show and being interviewed and saying that it's all fucking pointless. I don't think it was a good showing from him either. Like it's all like, this is all just fucking stupid, and they're trying to legitimately interview him and it's not working. But but again, I've got nothing against Jim Carrey. I just think this was woefully misjudged, like Andy said.
Yeah, and I think that's the fundamental through line for it, isn't it? It's a bizarre film. I can see why people would enjoy this, but I think you have to be of a very particular thought process, I think, or a very particular, fan of Andy Kaufman. I don't know. It isn't a film for me. But hey, this is what we do, isn't it? We watch films like this all the time, don't we? And sometimes they just don't land with us whatsoever. So yeah, there we go. I don't have anything further to say on it, really. Yeah.
No, I can't really. Again, I think I've said all we can say about it. And again, we're not really talking about the film itself because it is, for me, a bit forgettable. I don't think I'm going to recall this or remember this. I'm more likely going to remember the documentary, which has stuck with me and will stick with me going forward, unfortunately, as kind of a black mark against Jim and his career. But yeah, is what it is. Anyway, Andy. It's my turn to pick. So since you somewhat broke the format, again, I'm cool with it. I don't mind. But I thought we'll do something a bit different. Now, there's something that you and I have been meaning to do and we've been meaning to cover. And I thought, let's move this into a commentary, a live reaction, first reaction, live commentary to this film. Because I know, like the films we watched prior, you will not be able to finish it by yourself because it is known for being quite bad.
Okay.
So we're gonna. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. I don't know if it's gonna be a live thing or if it's gonna just be a commentary that we pre-record. I'll figure it out. But I think it's possible on this platform if it doesn't fucking dip out like it just did. We we are going to go back to the Star Wars ripoffs.
Good
The
lord.
history of Star Wars ripoffs. Again, we said we'd do this at some point. We did the holiday special. Well, it wasn't really a rip-off, but it was just something that was woefully bad. And then we did Star Crash on your channel. So
Yeah.
this time, we're going to share with each other for the very first time Turkish Star Wars.
Oh, for the love of Christ. Okay.
We'll
I
experience
feel
it
like
together.
it's going to have to be almost a live stream epic, isn't it?
I think so. I think we can. I think I can manage it as long as again the internet doesn't dip out. But
You have to turn everything off and have no background programs running.
basically, yeah, I think that's going to have to be the key.
A separate screen. You have to have another screen, aren't you? Surely.
I think we can kind of do this. Like I can't do it now, but like I can move. There's a way for this. I can move and have us kind of down here or down.
Yeah,
down here.
I've seen some. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen other channels use it because a lot of channels I follow use Streamlabs.
Yeah. So yeah, I might need to blur the video a bit and turn it down for us to kind of get past the
Flip it.
Flip it. Yeah, I'll do that as well. Blur it a little bit, flip it, turn the sound down, and then I'll provide the link for people if they want to watch it in tandem with two screens or anything. But yes, it's also called The Man Who Saved the World, I believe, as well, is the slightly more boring title, but everyone knows it's Turkish Star Wars, which again actively takes shots from the film, takes music from the film, and other films as well. I think it takes some from Indiana Jones as well. A lot of John Williams in there. And it's Junaid Arkin, I think, is the lead guy who's like big star in Turkey. And they even did a sequel years later where he returned, kind of a legacy sequel. So yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one. So yeah, neither me and Andy have seen this, and we're going to experience it together with all of you guys, hopefully at the very same time. So yeah, this is going to be it's going to be interesting.
Due to his known as Turkish Star Wars, due to his notorious unauthorized use of footage, music, and sound effects from Star Wars and other science fiction films. Yeah, it might have to be played on silent. Slightly.
Yes, I think so. I think so.
Flipped as well if we can.
Yeah, we'll do. I'll do what I can to it. I'll work it out. I'll get a copy and we'll figure out how we're going to do it as best we can.
We'll probably have to. We can play it in the background possibly, and then I don't know. See if we can.
Maybe if I
utilize our timers and go 3, 2, 1, execute.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we'll do the same. I've done it before. I'm an old hand at these commentaries, Andy. I know how to do it.
I've never like live streamed anything and commented on it going.
Well, we did that with Star Crash, and we did that with not live stream. I think we recorded it ourselves, but we did, and we did that with a holiday special, which is now available it was for Patreons only for a while, but I've released it on the main YouTube channel. If you want to go watch Andy react to the holiday special. It is different from the podcast. It is different, but yeah, you can just see him just dying in his chair and kind of just going into some stuff.
Re-questioning my life.
Absolutely. Re-questioning everything. Brilliant. And that was the second time I'd seen it as well. So yeah. But yeah, maybe we might even have to have maybe the plot synopsis up just in case we get a bit lost.
Yeah. That's one thing's for sure. I'm gonna need a lot more of this.
Yeah, I might have to drink that night as well myself.
Jesus Christ.
Right, yeah. So sharing the silver screen next time will be an experience. We'll advertise it. I'll make sure people know when it starts, and if you're free to watch, you can. But obviously, it will go up anyway, and you can watch it. And I'll try and we can do comments as well. People can comment, and we can respond to the comments. That'll be cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll do that and see. Yeah, well, it's a grand experiment. Again, it might not work. It might again cut out like this has, but if not, then
leave me watching it on my own. No.
Yeah, I'll just disappear. Like, bye. Yeah. But yeah. Excellent. Now, I've really enjoyed this discussion, Andy. Thank you for choosing this. Again, it's not been one we've this has been the real rat, not of unknown origin. This has been the real rat. This has been a dirty rat.
Absolutely. Well,
very conflicted feelings on it. Very conflicted.
Yeah, massively conflicted feelings. Well, there we go. So we'll draw that to a close. So obviously, next time on Sharing the Silver Screen, we're going to have Turkish Star Wars, or The Man Who Saved the Earth or the World, or whatever it's called. So we'll see you next time. Spider Dan, where can people locate your endeavors?
Well, as we're doing Sharing the Silver Screen, just to make people aware, that video will not be here on Andy's channel. It'll be over on my channel.
Yes.
So go over to YouTube, Spider Dan and the Secret Balls. Go to my website, spiderdanandthesecretballs.com. All the stuff is there. I'm doing a lot of guest spots at the moment, so there's a lot of new podcasts that I'm doing. I'm doing Banned Books. I'm doing one with Scott, Conan the Barbarian. I've done a Spider-Man one recently. The second part of that's going to come out soon.
Yep.
I'm doing one with Jack coming up for his new season of Back to the Filmography. I'm doing one on Wednesday. I'm doing a Crossing the Streams episode again. And I've got my Amazing Spider-Man 2 versus Spider-Man 3 coming out this coming week as well on Friday. So yeah, very busy boy at the moment.
Indeed. And me and you are also doing a return to the Batman.
We are. I'm going to go see it again on the big screen as well.
Oh, you're going to watch on the big screen? Interesting.
Yeah, it's out again.
I was talking about it in I've just done a review for the Penguin, the first episode of the Penguin. I was talking about it how I'm not entirely sold on the world. You know,
I remember you did have some issues.
Why I've not gone back to the film since I simply watched it at the cinema. We watched it together with my missus, obviously. And yeah, I've not watched it since. And
neither have I. I do remember really enjoying it though. Apart from some issues, I know you had a bit of an issue with the ending, and I had an issue with a cameo of sorts in the film. But on the whole, I remember very, very much enjoying it.
Yeah,
but
I enjoyed it. I just find it weird that I've not gone back to it. I do think that is a lot to do with the tone and the world. But again, we'll see. We're discussing that on the podcast, I'm sure.
Yes, absolutely.
But everything of Mr. Spider Dan, his link will be in the notes below. So do check him out. One show appears on my channel. The next show appears on Mr. Spider Dan's. This is what we call sharing the silver screen. We're sharing the load. We're sharing the wares. We're sharing the success and the disappointment of this. So yes, check out his channel, subscribe to that channel, and yes, make sure you keep up to date with all the ones we've released so far and we'll be releasing in the future. But for this one, we're going to skedaddle away. We're going to take a taxi and we're going to leave this place. So thank you very much for watching. We will see you on the next adventure of sharing the silver screen.
If you believe they put a man on the moon.
That's a great way to go. Please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.